Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reflections. Now, we are all created in the image of God. And that means that everyone who was created by God was created with some dignity. Now, we are living in a world where hatred is reigning. And when hatred reigns, we rob the dignity of other people. And in recent days, the whole world has been talking about George Floyd and his famous phrase, "I cannot breathe." And so this reflection, we are going to focus on that subject, bring it closer home. And the person who will take us through this is evangelist Ashton Kenyanjui. So karibu sana, evangelist.
Thank you so much, Pastor Apollo. Yes.
Now, the whole world is talking about racism. And it seems that everyone in the world has been caught by the wave. I could see people in South Africa protesting. I could see people in Zimbabwe protesting. Could see people in different parts of the world protesting. Now, what is going on in this regard?
Let me say, even people protested here in this country, around the Gigiri, or where we call the United Nations area, you know, that well-manicured area around the city.
Yes.
And it was the same protest, and they used the same gesture that is being used the world over. And the gesture was, I guess, kneeling with one knee. Well, I'm here to understand what the one knee exactly means. I think people should be standing up, because the knee, to me, is more of rubber stamping what that guy was doing. But maybe that's my view. Yes. However, racism, I would say, is a way of a creation where some human beings feel more superior than the others, and others feel more, they make others feel more inferior. And unfortunately, there is this problem where those who feel superior, it doesn't matter that we have, we all share the 4 blood groups, A, B, A, and O. And technically you find that these people put everyone in a position where they feel that we are not the same, because our skins look different.
Yes.
And the main, what is mainly used is people of color, whites and blacks. And this is what may be one of the biggest challenges that we live in. And even those who are seen inferior, they are also made to make others feel inferior within their own circle of the same color. Because when somebody is oppressed so much, I want to remind you of something that we have ever shared with you, of this horse that had been tethered on a plastic seat. Yes. But since the horse was used to be tethered on a tree, the horse could move and eat the grass beyond the tethering of the plastic seat. But it couldn't, because it did not know what is freedom, what is to be superior, or what is to be human or human. That's what I want to say.
Oh, well, basically, racism and is a seed of hatred.
Sure it is.
And when we talk about it in the context of our country, we talk about ethnicity, negative ethnicity. And I saw a tweet by someone, I think in the US, a Kenyan living in the US, said, "I can see many Kenyans very angry about what is happening in the US in regard to George Floyd, but they should as well be very angry with the hatred we exercise in this country." What do you think about that?
I think that is truly so. And one point I say that true. We should also be very angry. But also we should not be condemned, because we live in a world where so many things do happen around us. And as we speak of the murder of George Floyd in the United States, even in our situation, recently, I think this week, there were some demos, there were some demonstrations, because we have some, there is alleged murder of, I think, 2 Kenyans, one minor in Kibera, and there's another young boy in, I think, in somewhere in Nairobi. Yes. In regards to the curfew, stray bullets went and killed these 2 young men. So we should also be very angry at the situations that we live in. And the point is, I want to say, to clarify this, we have good white people, and I use the word white in quotes, and we have good black people, and I use the word black in quotes, and we have bad white people, again in quotes, and we have bad black humans.
Yes.
So technically, outrage should not just be about United States, what has been happening for 401 years, but it should be also here what has been happening from the pre to post-colonial Kenya,
Yes.
and probably even post-colonial Africa. Yes.
Now, of course, I think it should be an opportunity for us as Kenyans, of course, to talk about police brutality,
Yes.
which is rampant, and also talk about, the cancer of negative ethnicity. And I think it's Koigu Amwere who said that negative ethnicity is the opium of the Kenyan masses, that we have smoked it together so that we all read from the same script. The atheist and the bishop, the professor and the school dropout. We all read it from the same script. And so I don't know what we're going to say, because it's a big problem in our country today. And I think it's an opportunity for us to talk about it, where, we hate people and judge them harshly, discriminate them on the basis of their ethnicities.
Yes, I would want to say this personally as Ashton. I was born within the city. I'm technically an urbanite, much as I've been socialized in other areas. And I have seen the seed of ethnic hatred grow in this country. I remember we were together in college in the year 2005, in the seminary, let me put it, quote unquote. And I remember that the first time we had the first referendum in this country.
Yes.
I remember I shared with you that time, and I told you that's the time I realized I'm a Kikuyu. I never used to think technically about my tribe and all that. And I remember that is the time we produced bananas and oranges. And out of that, there is a political party that was born. And another one was born after. And out of that, I couldn't believe that we in the seminary, we were doing the same course.
Yes.
Divinity, a course that is associated with godliness.
Yes.
But the lead, what I can say this without betting an eyelid, that the lead tribalist, or I don't know what word to use, because I don't want to use harsh words. Actually, some of them were church ministers.
Yes.
Ordained church ministers. And that was a very, very painful moment, and it gave me a reflection. And for once, I felt my life threatened. I felt my friends threatened, because I have friends that I grew with from like all the communities. Yes. I went to a cosmopolitan school.
Yes.
Some of my best friends to this day are from other communities.
Yes.
In fact, more from other communities. The people, I would say, even who have hosted me outside this country are not even from my community.
Yes.
And this is what was brewing up. And this is unfortunate, because, Pastor Apollo, it does not just extend within the borders of Kenya. Yes. Even the Kenyans in the diaspora have smoked this opium.
Yeah. I think it's a big problem in the church today, and we have to speak out prophetically about these things. And I remember that time, 2007, when we fought each other in the seminary you're talking about. I was talking with an Anglican priest from the Luo lad, and one of the professors came and said, you are Luo, you are Kikuyu, why are you not fighting? He was saying it as a joke, because the expectation then was, you have to fight, antagonize with people who don't belong to ethnicity. Now, even in the church, I think it's a higher time we start speaking about these things. And in the course of your work, how have you come across negative ethnicity or tribalism in the church?
Let me say first and foremost, I am not even married to my own community.
We'll come to that.
And it is very interesting.
Yes.
Of the things I had posts and pre marriage and the wedding, very interesting things.
Yes.
From Christians, because I would say majority of my friends are actually Christians, and it is very interesting. But also in the church arena, you find there are people who view you with the prism of your tribe, which is absolutely wrong. Because if we say that we are all created in the image
Of God.
and the likeness of God, those are two very deep statements.
Yes.
Image and likeness.
Yes.
Basically meaning everybody is a representation of the original God, who has given us this breath of life, who has given us a chance to breathe. And probably what we do through these tribal things or racism, we deny people to breathe what we share. And you find people thinking that you come from the same, different community.
Yes.
And even sometimes you think that even in the church arena, you have to weigh what you have to say so that you do not offend people. And when you are called as a Christian, you are supposed to stand with the truth. And the truth that is God. The justice, I always say justice is synonymous to God.
Yes.
And people want to talk about fairness. My argument about fairness is that I have never seen the word fairness in the Bible. That God was fair in this case. It is categorical that God is just.
Yes.
In fact, God is justice.
Yes.
And in all these, you find that we in the church, when we propagate that you can see somebody differently because of their tribe, because of their class, because of their where they come from.
Yes.
Even within our community, we have sections, we have clans. And these also are things that make us weaklings, and especially in highlighting the image of God in each and every one of us.
All right. I think even as we come to a theological reflection on this, I think what we have seen in America in recent times in regard to the role of the church in speaking about injustice has come out very, very clearly. And I think the sermons that have been preached now, we have seen people speaking truth through power with a lot of boldness, calling out on those things they think should not happen. And I think that is something we miss in this country, where we don't hear from the pulpit people speaking directly to the things that divide us, things that are bringing justice to us. So what do you think about that, brother?
Let me say that it's time we hit the call that the wave that has come from United States. Because I'll tell you, we usually get very many divisions. And especially when you are coming to the electioneering period in this country, people, as you have said, the professor and the school dropout, the atheist and the
bishop.
And the bishop.
Yes.
They read the same script.
Yes.
And this is something that we really need to address, because we must start seeing each other as human beings who add value to this society.
Yes.
We must see each other as human beings who do not devalue others.
Yes.
Based on where they were born or who they were born to, because nobody chooses to be a certain skin color or a certain community.
Yes.
But God has given us this space to be able to elevate and edify each other for His glory. And that is the fact that we must live with.
Yes. Now, coming to an end now, I want us to reflect theologically about this issue of hate, issue of diversity. And of course, in theology, we talk about ecumenism, where we talk about the Christian unity, more so in regard to denominations. But I think we need to talk more about what you have just talked about, our humanity, because that is our commonness. We were created in the image of God. So how should we understand our diversity? Class diversity, race diversity, ethnic diversity, all manner of diversities. How should we understand them as Christians?
One thing that I would want to say is that as Christian, we must understand we are all very different. We all have different opinions, different ideologies, even different orientations, because we've not grown in the same place.
Yes.
And I'm also thinking that you even grow with your siblings in the same house, but you differ. You find sometimes even in the same house, parents side with some, others don't, others demilitarize some zones, others militarize some zones. But we must come to a point where we must be real to ourselves and understand that you are different. I always give a very good example if God created us with all the fingers, they were thumbs, the hand probably would look very ugly, or you had both left feet.
Yes.
It would look very weird because that is not the way we are supposed to be. And these differences make everything sweet.
Correct.
And that sweetness of our differences is what we should seek as Christians. And if you look at, I want to look at the 12 disciples of Christ.
Yes.
Jesus, being both God and man, had the capacity to choose all his disciples to be fishermen. And he operates with fishermen because they were this kind of people. But if you look, he even picked Judas.
Yes.
In that diversity, he had even Matthew. Matthew, he said, was to be a tax collector or something.
Yes.
There was a fisherman, there was Judas, and all these people. Jesus took them and walked with them, and he gave them different responsibilities, where we see 2 or 3 times them running away from the responsibilities, all of them. But however, they were very key to what they could do better than the other person. And what I can do better, what you can do better, what this diversity brings us to a point where we can be able to elevate the society to that what you are calling humanity, humanness. We become human.
Yes.
Yes, because we're in the process of becoming every day.
Exactly. And so I think to those who are listening and watching, the reason why God created us with these diversities is not so that we may be separated from each other, but so that we can complement each other, so that we can build each other. And I think we didn't need to understand that. And I'd said there's something we talk about, your personal experience. I think this is good because you tell us what happened to you. I know you are married to a person from a different ethnicity than yours, and I know you received a lot of opposition from close quarters. How did you overcome that when it was quite unpopular to do that?
Yes, because what I remember is that we were dating at the height of just when just before the elections of 2007, Kenya was a polarized country. I have never seen this country that bad. The tribal politics were bad, the hatred in this country, you could even hold it. It was terrible.
Yes.
In restaurants, in everywhere. Even some people who you've known for years will not even give you a handshake. Now come the elections. Well, that's for another day. But there was the controversial elections, stolen elections, as it was. And this is the time, and my community was supporting a different majority of my community. I wouldn't say, because elections are sacred ballot in this country. And her community were supporting a different presidential candidate, majority of them, because definitely you find there are those who support this one. But, and you'd hear, not once or twice, I had her friends telling her, you are dating people who stole our elections. You are dating people who killed us. You are dating people who hate us. And they would openly, why date a Kikuyu? And I would also hear from my quarters, people asking me, you looked around and you only saw the only community you would go to is that particular community.
Okay.
And because you have stereotypes, stereotypes like Kikuyus are said to be thugs, thieves, stingy, mean, and here there is an issue of dating. And you'd hear people asking, that guy cannot even buy you a cup of tea. Those guys are so mean. They die with billions in the bank, but they cannot even buy you a plate of food. And then they would stereotype her. Your community has witches, has wizards. And after a while, you'd hear others telling. Now the friends on the other side would tell them, much as you've been buried there, I'm sure you are going to, with time, the clan is going to get him another girl. You see, to me that is cheap. It is very cheap.
Okay.
And especially when it comes to people who call themselves believers. And believers in the ideals and the teachings of Christ.
Wow. Well, I think that's a good way of ending at this. And I think this is something we have to encourage young people in, because we didn't need to fill the gap, because it's widening by the day. But as Christians, we really need to fill the gap with love.
Sure.
And I want to read something that somebody wrote here. That will be our conclusion. And we hewn from the same quarry, and cut from the same cloth. And we creation of the same Creator. Don't we share in one humanity? The things that separate us, color, race, religion, Ethnicity, class are actually supposed to beautify our diversity and supplement our humanness. May we be drawn to each other, and may we be separated from the things that separate us. And may the Lord bless you, even as we continue thinking about this important topic as we walk on the avenue of love. God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you.